Welcome to Watch the Game podcast. It's your man LA Cheatham. Hope
Hey,
you guys had a safe Christmas holiday and going into the new year. Continue to do so.
yeah,
Ken,
yeah.
what's
What's up,
going on, man? How was your holiday?
man? Listen, I got my new Michigan Scully on right here. Fresh out the box with the Michigan. Shout out, shout out my Dukes for the new Michigan Scully. I got to break it in because I got a big game on Saturday to get ready for. So I need all my apparel to have the proper amount of juju in it. So if I have to make a quick switch if things ain't working right, I know what I need to go to.
Yeah, man. College football playoffs will be taking center stage 3 o'clock Central, and then what is it, 6 or 7 o'clock?
So,
The two semifinal games. Um, but I gotta ask you, me personally, I think the Alabama outside of the college championship playoff, Alabama and Kansas State gonna be an interesting. That's gonna be another interesting matchup for me because considering the fact that Kansas State did beat TCU in the Big 12 championship game. That's TCU's only loss on the season. And then just to see how they match up with Alabama earlier that day, I think they'll be playing like 11 o'clock or that morning, 12 Eastern. I don't know. See what bowl will they be playing in.
I'm be
But
having pre.
that's the only other matchup that kind of interests me outside of the college football playoff.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm be having the pregame meal. Then I just it's unfortunate that the college football playoff. I think it's just kind of that made all these other bowl games really irrelevant. And like Kansas State, they had they had a good season. They lost 3 games. Bama lost 2 games. They get to step up, I guess, in the level of competition to kind of see what their program is. It should be enough there for people to care about that game. But if you're not a diehard, I guess, Bama fan or a K-State fan, I can't see the casual average college football fan watching that because they make such a big deal about this college football playoff. And I think you said it last time. It's like watching these bowl games. It's almost like we watching COVID games again because ain't nobody there. It's just so it's. I know they got to be losing money, and some of these bowls got to be losing money to put these events on. So I think the era we grew up on, January 1st, we get all these different bowl games and people was interested in each one of them. I think that's gone. And then the fact that they had so many bowls, like they started to dilute the bowls, like the Buffalo Wild Wings bowl, and then you had the Nike Air Max 90 bowl and stuff. Like it was too many of them, man. And the threshold to getting the bowl game was so low, win 6 games. So you was getting a lot of like mediocre teams playing just an extra game, and people didn't want to come out or watch that. So yeah, the college football player is just kind of changed everything. And with expansion, are the bowls totally going away? I haven't read up on it. I haven't seen nothing about it, but I just think it'll be pointless.
And then when you consider the fact that a lot of these teams that are not in contention for the National College Football Championship, it has to be mentioned that a lot of these teams they got players like entering the transfer portal before they even before the season's completely over for the team, and then either entering the portal or they're jumping into the NFL draft, and a lot of these guys are just opting out of these games altogether.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's the new era we in. We got to accept it. I think college football really got to take a look at that. If you're gonna make it relevant, what they say they're going to 8 or 12 team playoff.
I believe they're going to a 18 playoff, and I think that will make it a little bit more interesting. I don't know if it's 8 or 12. But I think what you just brought up a good point. When they do add the other teams, I think that's going to happen in 2024, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe that that's going to add a little bit more significance to the bowl games, depending on which ones align with the college football championship. And then when you're thinking about it, hmm, further down the line, you may even see a little bit more extension into the like a full, a flat out tournament style. Now, I really think we've so many years away from that, but I do think going forward, that might be one of the things that will make these such irrelevant bowl games uh, more important, more significant, and it will probably also keep the players engaged with their teams where they feel like they got something to play for, and then maybe they could Cinderella stories happening in the
Right.
college football. I
Right.
mean, we talk about NIL deals and Cinderella stories. That's what makes it possible. NIL makes it possible because guys can they don't have to go to the big school to pocket a little money. You know what I'm saying? Now,
Yeah.
I think that can even the playing field a little bit more, make it a little bit more interesting as far as the college football bowl games are concerned. But right now, you got guys looking at look, they did media futures, getting in the transfer portal, throwing their name in the draft, and I also think when I brought up the COVID thing, why it looked like why a lot of these games look like COVID, the COVID crowds. I think pre-Christmas, those bowl games are irrelevant anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got a lot of like one game over 500 teams, guys. Teams that's barely over 500, just getting their 6 wins to qualify for a bowl game, so they're going to end up in the popcorn bowl or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, and then when you look around the crowds, it's really nothing. The reason why I made that statement because there's no one there, and I
Mm-hmm.
think when you think about the importance of the bowl game itself, and then pre-holiday, pre-Christmas, going back to the tradition of us waiting pretty much to New Year's Day. Then when they start to expand the bowls, they got to start just watering down the importance of each bowl game.
And then they do it's a few bowl games that take place after the college football playoff, and I'm just like, why? Like
Yeah.
that's like going to we in Vegas, we going to fight night. Name whoever heavyweight that you is Mike Tyson heyday. Mike
Mm-hmm.
Tyson fight first. We not staying for the undercard after that. We about
Nope.
like that.
Nope.
It don't even
Nope.
make sense. It don't even make
Yeah.
sense.
It's a tough sell. It's really a tough sell. Uh, like today we got Oregon and North Carolina playing at the Holiday Bowl. Uh, Duke play UCF like you mentioned earlier. Ole Miss and Texas Tech. I think they're probably just kicking off at the Texas Bowl. That's a decent matchup, Texas Tech and Ole Miss, but the the interest, people just waiting on the semifinals. I know I am. Like I say, the only other game that I'm probably really interested in is Alabama, Kansas State, and that's the only reason because of Bryce Young playing at Alabama, just getting ready for the NFL draft. What kind of game was he going to play? What kind of game is he going to have? Maybe his last college football game in his career as he prepared for the draft.
And I mean, to be quite honest, I'm surprised he playing. I mean, that's a business decision. You not playing for nothing, so you just essentially taking all the risks, and there's really no reward. What? Okay, Bama get one more win for the season. You already won the Heisman. You got a national. Don't you got a national championship under his belt too?
I don't I don't think he got a national
No, they lost.
championship
They
on his
lost
back.
last year. They didn't win last year.
But this is one thing I want you to think about. He has probably been the most marketable college football player in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So can you imagine the amount of money he's made in name, image, and likeness? And so, with that being said, it's worth him going out and playing because he's probably getting something just to play in the game anyway. We don't know.
I
We
know
just don't know.
I know his NIL deal before he even played it down at Bama. I think they said he was close to a mil on his NIL deal. And I'm like, whoa, he ain't even through a pass yet. But and then he comes out and wins the Heisman. It's like, okay, I guess he was worth
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And then you look at the fact he's by him being a Heisman Trophy winner, he's had a chance to be in the Dr. Pepper campaigns. So I think him playing in this game, it just adds to his legacy. I mean, people, I'm going to tune in for one to watch it. So I would imagine it's Alabama. It's Alabama. It's him, and it's the opportunity to watch one of the top quarterbacks in the country go out and play his last college football game. And you got to think that can just think about the commercials you may see that day. Has he cut a few new commercials? Think
like
about it.
like the Super Bowl or something. He
Yeah,
got some new in the can.
yeah. I mean, so this is probably one of the reasons why he's playing in the game because he's for sale pretty much. I mean, he's promoting the game, the college football game, and also getting himself prepared for the draft. He really, outside of being injured, really has nothing to lose. And what about he's got to have a certain level of insurance given the fact if he does get injured. I'm just thinking about the business aspect of these college football games, name, image, and likeness. And like I said again, he's got to be one of the biggest, most marketable college football players this season. And Dr. Pepper, uh,
Nissan Heisman House. Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
there you go. Um,
If number 12 was his dad, I'm telling you, he would not be playing in that game.
well, don't get me wrong, I understand, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
True, yeah.
Typically, yeah, but you got to. I just got to believe that he's got a lot more at stake, and there's a lot more insurance going into him playing in this game, and he's got all the other motives as to why he's playing in this game. Because, like you said, Alabama's not in the national championship game. Neither is Clemson. Talking about Clemson, DJU. We talked about him, I think weeks ago. I think he entered the transfer portal, but just a year ago, he was a guy that was in the Dr. Pepper commercials. And I don't know if you remember that, but I remember him having Dr. Pepper commercials last season. But now it's Bryce Young. He's a great actor. Bryce Young is a great actor, by the way. I got to give it to him. I
he,
got to give it to him. I
he
mean,
gonna look real good in that Houston Texans blue. He gonna look real
yeah, I could just see him being in Best Man 4 one day. He got the look, man. But anyway, looking into this semifinal, man. What you think about your Wolverines gonna be taking on TCU?
Man, listen, I hope the Wolverines and Jim Harbaugh and the coaching staff is taking this more serious than the fan base. Because the fan base is we want Georgia. We want Georgia. They're not even thinking Ohio State is an afterthought. We want Georgia. We want some get back from what happened last year. And I kind of feel like that too. Like I would be disappointed if we don't win the semifinal game because I just think we better than TCU and we don't at least get to the national championship game. So yeah, on the Michigan side, I think just a lot of people just overlooking TCU. But you know, I went and I did my due diligence. I watched some TCU highlights. I did see the Big 12 championship game, so that was the only time I saw them play live. Got some weapons. Obviously, Max Duggan in the Heisman. He was a Heisman candidate. He got to go to New York, so you can't overlook that. He put TCU on his back versus Kansas State to even get that game in the overtime. I know you like the wide receiver they got, Johnston, number 1. Darius Davies, number 11, kind of looks like maybe got a little Percy Harvin type build. He's a smaller receiver, got some speed. They move him all over the field. He gets his hands on the ball. It's kind of electric. But the defense, and I was listening to what was I listening to some college football show. The defense is it's a Pac-12. It's not a Pac. It's a Big 12 defense. And what I mean by that is it's not SEC level. It's not Big 10 level. It leaves a lot to be desired. They beat 5, I think, top 25 ranked teams this year, but in a few of those games, the starting quarterback was out, and those games was close. So that kind of lets you know that their defense ain't really getting home. They don't take the ball away, kind of like you would want to see a team in the college football playoff this caliber defense to do. So the defense it doesn't worry me. I definitely think we got the edge in the trenches. We made our name there the last 2 years. I would be surprised if we got punched in the mouth in the trenches. But Max Duggan, he's gonna see some NFL caliber athletes when he played Michigan. Will Johnson, the freshman cornerback, number 2, had 2 picks in the Big Ten championship game. He's getting a lot of hype now. They thinking he gonna be Charles Woodson-esque. You got DJ Turner on the other side. This is his, I think, 2nd or 3rd year playing big time minutes for the program. So it's not unthinkable to think TCU cannot pull this out, but I think Michigan got this one. I think we got it. And I would say by like 10 points.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me is I think it's gonna come down to the pass rush. Um, which defense can get to the quarterback the best. Looking at TCU, I think they gave up the most points they gave up was 34 points to SMU earlier this season. And it leads me to think about just the opponents that both of these two teams have faced to bring them and lead them up to this point. Um, when I say that, I'm talking about the caliber of opponent that TCU probably faced compared to Michigan. The 2 games with TCU that I was able to check in on was the Texas game, which was a really slow scoring game, slow moving game in the first half, and then TCU just kind of busted out a couple big plays in the third quarter to end up wrapping that game up in Austin. I might add, going on the road, and this was, I think, the first game they played, being one of the top 4 teams in the country. So they went into a primetime situation with everything at stake, with a lot to prove. And I think the defense looked pretty good in the first half. And I started to look at, okay, I like Quentin Johnston, and you said Darius Davies, and Max Duggan, the quarterback. But I think it's going to come down to the pass rush and whether or not they can get to the Wolverines and stop the run, because they got to stop the run. And then when you look at how they lost to Kansas State, I mean, they gave up a lot of big plays quite a few big plays in the secondary. So if Michigan can really exploit those things, I think they'll have a chance to win handily, because Michigan's been known to wear teams down. They run the football. First, second quarter, okay. About the third quarter, this is what they did to Ohio State. They beat them up so much first, second quarter. The third quarter, it was just like boom. They broke their spirit, and then they had a little bit different approach when you talk about McCarthy, giving him an opportunity to throw the ball downfield. And I think it might have caught Ohio State off by surprise.
Yeah, because that was really the first and only game this season where they really hit the big play like that. I think they had like something like 5 plays go for like over 300 yards, but everything else was like 3 and 4 yards a clip, for the play. So I think we're gonna get the traditional Michigan game plan. We more physical than you. We coming downhill. You may stop it in the first quarter. You may be able to hold up in the second quarter. Well, by the time that mid third quarter, fourth quarter roll around, like you just not gonna be able to stand on us leaning on you the whole game. It's just not gonna happen. So, and then sprinkle in, they might scheme something up just like they did with on that jump pass they did versus Ohio State. They might have seen something on tape that they can scheme up, but I think we're gonna get the traditional Michigan output in this game, and then assuming they get by this game and get to Georgia, all bets is off. I think they come in with they doing the house sink at it.
That brings me to another question. We talking about before we move on to Georgia and Ohio State, the matchups as we talk about Darius Davies and Quentin Johnston. Now I know it's gonna come down to TCU stopping the run eventually. Uh, with what's the running back in
Uh,
Michigan,
Donovan Edwards.
Donovan Edwards. They're gonna have to stop the run. Donovan Edwards, and I think they over the past they've had a couple 3 weeks since the Big Ten championship game. They had another running back emerge that was a linebacker. They had a chance to give him an opportunity due to the injury to Blake Corum.
Yeah.
They brought on the second and third street running back. So can Michigan add another dimension to the running game, and can TCU counter that? Also, McCarthy being able to scramble himself because he can scoot. Max Duggan can scoot a little bit if you get undisciplined around him. He have a tendency to break a run or two. How do you believe? What do you think? How do you think the Michigan secondary is going to match up with Darius Davies and Quentin Johnston?
Well, considering the job they just did versus Marvin Harrison Jr., and I gotta think he probably the best wide receiver in college football. I think he still had 7 grabs in that game, and he was close to 100 yards. If not, he went over. But he had a touchdown as well. But it just didn't seem like he had the same pop that we had saw him have in every other game this season. So I think Quentin will probably get some plays here and there, but I don't think that they fear him like they fear or was concerned about Marvin Harrison Jr. because I think they thought CJ Stroud is a better quarterback than Max. Marvin Harris Jr. is a better wide receiver than they got. So we game planning for them. It's more so we game planning for TCU versus we game planning to stop these guys can't beat us. We game planning TCU. So, but I'm real happy. I hope Will Johnson continues to stack these games together. 2 interceptions in the Big Ten championship game. You wearing number 2 like Woody. Hey, only defensive player to win the Heisman. If you got that kind of potential, hey, let's start realizing that now, man. You're a freshman.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Wasn't he a freshman? Because he did have a hell of a Big Ten championship game. Which brings me to the second semifinal. Like I said, I'm not gonna make a pick with that game with the Michigan and TCU game. I'm not gonna make a pick because I don't know enough about TCU. And from what I've seen with Johnston, I think he has the ability to be a matchup problem. But it's not gonna matter if the Michigan front seven can get to the quarterback and limit him and his ability to have time in the pocket to even throw the ball to Davies and Johnston. Now, we talk about the next game, Georgia at home pretty much in the Peach Bowl, going up against Ohio State, another one-loss team. Of course, lost to the Wolverines, Michigan Wolverines, week before the last week of their regular season, before the Wolverines went on to win the Big Ten championship. And one thing about this matchup is all season long, I always made it a point to tell you I respect CJ Stroud, but I really didn't think he was the threat everybody made him out to be. Um, and when I look at the two rosters, Georgia is looking much better now than they were looking like maybe 6, 7 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, I just think they got too many. I think on both sides of the ball, they just got too much for Ohio State. I really do. And if you have to ask me, they really look like the best team in the country the past 3, 4 weeks of the season. I had questions about them earlier when they played like Kent State
And
and
Missouri.
Missouri,
Yeah.
but in the last 4 weeks, it's like, man, they didn't hit a stride. They look totally different. They tried to put Stetson Bennett in the Heisman Trophy race. I wasn't buying that. Now, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Ohio State's going to match up well in this game. I think I'm picking Georgia by 2 touchdowns,
The
and
only
they'll be up by 3.
the only thing that makes me pause about this, about just flat out picking Georgia, is because Ohio State is gut check time for them. Considering what we saw the last time they was on the field, and now you coming up, you pretty much playing a better Michigan team because they built the same way. You know, strong on the defensive line, strong offensive line, got athletes. You know, everybody plays to a standard. Kirby Smart, great head coach. You know, he came in and turned that whole thing around. But it's gut check time. If you're a Ohio State player, your pride is on the line right here. Because if you go out here and y'all get rolled again, I think it's really gonna start to tear down the foundation and the cracks of that program. So they got to show up. Now, if they show up and still lose, what does that really mean at the end of the day? But and they got a lot of their top guys out. Travion Henderson, the running back, number 32, not playing. Jackson Smith and Jigbo not playing, but he hasn't played all year, so that's not going to really be a big, void for them to fill. But CJ Stroud, again, it's your chance because, like you said, you respect him. I said I think he's a good quarterback, but what has CJ Stroud done in college football? He hasn't beat Michigan. He has not won a Big Ten championship. Big games. What is he?
He
When
kind of like the Dak Prescott of college football.
it,
I think he's good.
mm-hmm.
He's worthy of the mention, but he hasn't really proven anything with the torch he's been given. I believe coming in on the heels of Justin Fields' success and just the overall national powerhouse that Ohio State's known to be, I believe he's kind of like, if he was at another school, probably wouldn't be as much hype. That's just how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the simple reason that I don't really see a whole lot in his game because I thought he was a little bit more athletic than he appears to be, and he don't really take the chances that he probably should when he sees certain things that he could kind of move to. If he were to take more chances with his feet, I mean, just to get out of bounds, if nothing else, I think he'd be a little bit better quarterback. But it doesn't seem like he's interested in doing that. Maybe he's not that fast. I don't know, but the modern quarterback of today has to be able to move and create things outside the pocket. Now, going forward, he could be a better NFL quarterback because he has pocket presence and so many,
Yeah.
yeah. And then when you put guys around him, the right guys around him, he could be a successful NFL quarterback. But just like right now, like you said, he hasn't won the big games. And I remember seeing him the first night I seen him. I believe he lost his first game as the Ohio State quarterback against Minnesota.
I believe he did too. And I know he lost to Oregon at home.
That's what I'm saying. So he's not known to win the big games.
Right.
And I think it's kind of a black cloud over his college career. outside of the stats. Good stats, got a lot of guys around him, but the big game, he just has not showed up in the big games. Starting with his very first game as an Ohio State quarterback.
Yeah, yeah. So and him as well. Like it's gut check time. Are we gonna get this done and get this? Does the program take a turn in the wrong direction? So we'll see. That's why I can't write them off because I know they're explosive. I know they can put some points on the board. All it take is George. All it take is a couple plays. You know, 3 big plays here and there, and that could be the difference in the game. Georgia could play solid for the rest of the game, but 3 big plays will get you beat. So, um, yeah, we'll see. I would go if I'm betting my money. I'm definitely picking Georgia, but is we'll know. I think we'll know early in that game what
Um,
they come to do.
yeah, another thing when I think about it, just to bring Bryce Young back up again and why he's possibly playing in this game and then opt out. We brought up the I brought up all those other scenarios, but when you look at it, CJ Stroud is playing NFL prospect, get a chance to he has a chance to go out against Georgia and have a big game, maybe win a game, and then have another chance to play 2 more games if he can beat Georgia by a chance. So him getting an opportunity to like audition for the NFL scouts again, putting those last few final touches of game tape down in a big game situation. And I think that might be some of the motivation for Bryce Young as well. Like these other guys, like the kid at Kentucky, I forget his name, Levi's his name, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. All of these guys are considered to be high draft picks in the NFL draft. And if you Bryce Young, you like, okay, they putting up tape and they giving the scouts a last little piece of work to look at. So maybe that might be his motivation too. Just getting that last piece of good tape down for the NFL draft and scouts and so forth. Um, yeah, when you say Alabama's what 10-2.
Yeah,
Doesn't it seem like Alabama lost more than 2 games this season?
and they
It
lost
really does.
2 points. 2 points.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it seemed like when they lost that game to Tennessee, still the best game I've seen all season.
still, yeah,
Tennessee and Alabama.
yep.
It seemed like that game meant a lot more than it actually does now. And it seemed like a much bigger loss at the time because I still feel the effects of that game.
Yeah,
And then who else did they lose to? They lost to Texas A&M.
and
Was
yeah,
so, and I maybe that's why it feels like they lost more than 2 games. I mean, they're 10-2, had a chance to creep in the college football championship, but they didn't. For the first time in years, no Alabama, no Clemson.
no, they lost to
So
LSU.
who that?
They lost to LSU.
LSU. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. Now LSU was playing good football, and they did get the best of Alabama. That was another good game.
Mm-hmm.
But
Overtime.
unexpectedly, yeah, that was another good game. LSU uh end up losing to Georgia in the SEC championship game, which leads me to believe again that Georgia's just playing the best football in the country right now. I mean, they took care of business against LSU, but this just seems like Alabama has lost more than 2 games. I was wrong about the Texas A&M. I'm glad you corrected me. But yeah, LSU, they got the best of them with a scrambling quarterback. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it just seems like they lost more than two
It,
games.
it feel like they lost about 5 games, don't it?
Yeah, it seemed, yeah, at least four games, 4 or 5 games. It just seemed like not the Alabama that we come to know. You know what I'm saying? But Bryce Young with plenty to play for because now I think he's playing for draft status, and to
And
see that
number
those
one
other guys had opportunity to put more tape down, and this is his last shot to make a great impression on the NFL.
That game you said is that's kicking it off at 11 a.m. Sugar Bowl.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm just looking at their schedule. They lost 52-49 to Tennessee, still game of the year, and they lost 32-31 to LSU in overtime. And it
yeah,
feels like they lost 5 games.
yeah. It does. I mean, because and then when you think about it, he had a couple games where he didn't play. They had the backup out there, so
Yeah.
just really. And then you look at the close games they played against Texas this season. They squeaked that victory out, but it's like it's anytime you see Alabama have to pull it off in the last second, even if they win, sometimes you feel like, oh, that ain't Alabama. That ain't the squad that we know them to be. And it just seems like they lost more than 2 games this season. Um, so that's the other game of interest: Alabama, Kansas State. And then you got your college football championship playoff games on Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. Um, Interesting thing staying with the footballs here. One of the different variations, the one without the stripe. Uh, the NFL season, man, is winding down, and some teams. I'm just impressed. I keep telling. I'm impressed with the 49ers in the NFC. Uh, uh, it's been pointed out. I've seen on some other shows. I'm not sure how many times, how many turnovers the Kansas City Chiefs have had this season. I'm picking them out of the AFC, but I forget what show it was. I was on my way to work the other night, and I was listening to sports talk radio, and the guy was pointing out how impressed he was with Kansas City Chiefs when you consider the fact that a Mahomes, he has Kelsey, Travis Kelsey. And for years he had Travis Kelsey. He had the Cheetah,
Yeah.
but they got the Cheetah, traded the Cheetah away. Now you got Kelsey. Now it's a but you can't really name a bunch of guys in his receiving core. You got Smith Schuster, right?
Juju, Valdell Scantling, uh, McKinnon, the running back number one. They use him out of the backfield a lot. Trying to think. Those are the top guys though. The backup to Kelsey Gray, number
Okay.
83. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, those is top targets.
I mean, I'm impressed with
Sky Moore, is it? That's his name, Sky Moore.
yeah. Um, the Bills
The
because
Chiefs.
the turnovers with the Bills started to concern me because Josh Allen lately has been turning the ball over. He had 2 picks against the Bears.
You talking about Brett Favre?
Yeah, the gunslinger, Josh Allen. He had 2 picks against the Bears. I think he had a couple picks the week before that. I don't can't remember who it was they played. But I don't know if Buffalo was playing their best football at this time of the season. Cincinnati's hitting a decent stride. And then when you think about it, you remember the beginning of the season, 2 of the last undefeated teams was Philadelphia and Miami. I think
Yeah.
Miami was the outside of Philadelphia. Miami was one of the last teams, second to Philadelphia, to drop a game. The future of Tua Tagovailoa. What you think about that? Because I think he's been ruled out for the rest of the season
With the
in
concussion.
concussion protocol, and I think they're going to be starting Bridgewater this week against the. I think they're playing the Patriots.
Yeah, you are correct. They playing the Pats at home. Um, I thought, especially after how they mishandled Tua's concussion the first time around, and then they played him, threw him back out there on Thursday night. I thought Tua was done, especially the way his fingers had locked up and everybody saw it. I thought he was done, and I was like, Teddy Bridgewater, this is your moment. I know You was drafted to be the guy in Minnesota. You had a knee injury. They had to move on from you. So you've been going from team to team to team to team, trying to audition to get you back a starting job. I mean, he's played for Carolina. He's been in Denver. He was on the Saints. Like, he's been everywhere. Now he's on the Dolphins. Dude, you got Jalen Waddle and you got Tyreek Hill. And you got Mike McDaniel. I think that's their coach name, Mike McDaniel. He's one of the best young coaches as far as calling plays and scheming stuff up that we got in the league. This is your moment. He can take that job from Tua if Tua is going to have some long-term effects from the concussions he's been going through. But this is an audition right here. You can get paid. You in South Beach. You know Stephen A. want to come down there. You are in a great spot right now. You 8-6. You got to go ahead and make the playoff. But yeah, things really looking like they about to fall in Teddy Bridgewater's lap. Can he capitalize on it?
Well, I think a little different. The reason why I say this, because some tend to think that if Tom Brady is done in Tampa, some seem to think that he can end up in one of three places:
home,
Miami, New York with the Jets, or San Francisco going back home to finish his career.
I hope we don't get that. I hope go take his ball and go home and realize, like, man, listen, I am 40, about to be 46 years old next football season. I've done it. It's cool. It's good. It's good. You don't, and you don't ever want to see the legends just go out on that downward spiral, just trying to chase, championships and legacy. Brett Favre went out like that. Now, Brett Favre off the field, we ain't talking about that. But Brett Favre was with, who you go to, the Jets first, then ended up with the Vikings.
Yeah.
And then his Iron Man streak ended up getting broke that last year with the Vikings because he couldn't start the game and stuff. Like, you don't want to see Brady go out like that. Just get into the playoffs this year, maybe still a playoff game. So everybody, you put the fear of, Tom Brady coming to town. It's his time of year. Do that and just ride off into the sunset. And then call Giselle back, man.
Well, let me put something on your mind now. Tom Brady, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. Think about that for a minute. Now, if you can get that, you better believe that there's a few more guys coming. Who those guys are, we don't know. Tom Brady throwing the ball to Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. Then let's think about the scenario in San Francisco. Tom Brady,
Debo
McCaffrey, Debo Samuel,
Kittle.
So 46 years old. You look at what he's doing with Tampa right now. Tampa. I mean, I just think it's been bad in Tampa ever since he didn't get in training camp on time. A lot of people giving the coach Todd Bowles a lot of crap about not being a good coach. But when you think about other scenarios, and Tom Brady being able to be matched up with those four guys, well, five guys when you add Kittle, it'll be interesting. And I'm gonna leave it in there. It's gonna be interesting all season. Also believe this: Tom Brady is competitive as hell, and if they don't have a decent run in these playoffs, if they get in first and foremost, because this game against the Carolina Panthers is big. I text you on Christmas Day and I said, when you think about it, Tom Brady's playing playoff football right now. Every game matters.
Yep.
That's why that game was worth watching.
And he who they beat The Buccaneer, not the
They
Buccaneer,
beat the Cardinals.
in overtime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
McSorley was the quarterback for the Cardinals. The
Pitts-
Cardinals down to their third or fourth quarterback of the season. So McSorley was the quarterback for the Cardinals. Tampa Bay wins 19-16. I think um, I think Tom Brady had. I think he had two picks in that game.
He
Let me
did.
see.
He
He
did.
had two picks in that game by the same corner, but they squeaked out a win, leaving every game that they play from this moment out interesting for Tom Brady. Uh, Another thing to think about, we talked about last year's MVP, Aaron Rodgers. We talked about Miami. He went to Miami. The Packers defense created a lot of turnovers, won that game.
4 picks, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I think who the Packers got this week.
The Vikings, I believe. Hold on, I can tell you.
So
Packers.
another interesting game, man. Just another big game. And then the Bears, they got a chance to like kill the Lions if it hasn't been done already. We know now that it's looking like Justin Fields is going to play both games of the remainder of the regular season. Um, I don't know how I really feel about that, but I just wanted to bring it up. But it's been said that he will. They do plan on letting him play both games. Another thing that's really interested me when we get out of the NFL, we're gonna dig into a little hoop. Then we'll be done. But um, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is in Los Angeles playing with the Rams.
But he had a bye
Because
last week.
say it again.
He had a bye last week. They played the Broncos.
I don't care, man. That's another thing. Baker Mayfield looked impressive against the Broncos. I know you said the Broncos, but you know what have you done for me lately? That's the media, and that was the big game. It's on big stage. I mean, irrelevant game, but it was so important when you talk about the futures of evidently the coach uh, getting fired with Denver Broncos like the day after.
Mm-hmm.
But Mayfield is looking good. I'm not a big Mayfield fan, but I got to give him his due. He looking good. It was a lot of that was tacked on with the running game. Don't get me wrong, but a win is a win is a win. Good defense, complimentary football. Baker Mayfield making the plays that was available to him. And I thought about it. Baker Mayfield with the Los Angeles Rams in that market might be a good match. Might be a good match. Now,
Stafford?
Stafford, they're saying they don't know if Stafford is going to come back. But look, Mayfield and Stafford in camp in Los Angeles. It's going to be one of the most interesting quarterback competitions in the league.
I don't even
Think
think
about it.
I don't even think that's a competition. I think Stafford has won you a Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield is kind of, I don't want to call him a journeyman right now, but he's looking for his opportunity. If Stafford comes back, I think Stafford, you the guy. Baker, you here, you the backup. I don't even think that's a competition right there. But I
I,
think
I I understand that, but I'm just thinking about look, Mayfield has an opportunity. He got two more games to play to build his resume and to build a chemistry with this coach. Now, Stafford's got to be completely healthy and he's got to be playing at a high level. I think it's going to be worth a competition coming into camp.
I wouldn't.
And they got the best spotlight in LA.
Hey, yeah, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. If it was me, I wouldn't. I would have Baker on my team, but he would no. there's no chance of you getting this job as long as Matt Stafford is here. Matt Stafford just won me a Super Bowl.
I mean, yeah, he might be the guy that you gonna give the nod to, but I'm just saying you cannot overlook this man. Matt Baker has 2 more weeks to audition in LA. Right now, Stafford is injured. Stafford has to come back from those injuries, and then again he has to prove that he can still do the job.
Right.
You also add that I don't think they have a lot of draft capital
Oh no.
because they traded that away to win last year's Super Bowl.
Right.
So Stafford and Mayfield have to be a thing in the immediate future in Los Angeles, and Mayfield may have found a home. Whether or not he's the starting quarterback or not, and how much he's going to get paid, but I think he may have found a home. And I think that market, just think about the marketability of the two guys in LA. Who you think has more charisma, Mayfield or Stafford?
I mean, I missed the progressive commercials when he was at the crib at the stadium. I missed them. Okay, like I enjoyed them commercials.
Now you see. I don't know if you see it how I see it.
You saying it's a Drew Brees, Jameis Winston type of situation?
I think it's bigger than that.
Just because it's LA.
Yeah, because it's LA, and it may be about the same because yeah, you might be right because Stafford might be on his way out, and Mayfield might be still in the prime. If he could just pull a Geno Smith,
Yeah.
if he could pull a Geno, he might have found a good home in LA.
Now I can see that happening. Yeah, I can see that, but not a straight up. It's an open quarterback competition.
That's what I'm saying. I believe it's open because if Mayfield just continues to just put good tape down, he's got to be considered. And then when you think about the fact that if you're gonna come into camp, who are you gonna play in the preseason? One of them got to play in the preseason, so it's gonna be more of an opportunity for those guys to show their worth in the preseason games, exhibition games.
I would have to think Mayfield would get the more of the reps in that
And
scenario.
if he just continues to look good, you're gonna be like, well, damn, we might be on to something. Then your leash with Stafford might not be too long.
It's tough for me to see because I know Stafford. I don't think he played this preseason, but it's just tough for me to see, especially. I know what have you done for me lately? Baker Mayfield just beat the bye week last week, 51-14, and he came in and won that game off of being there for 2 days. I get it. His stock is going like this, but he didn't do nothing in Carolina. Now, we can say that was a bad organization, but when he got there, he still had some weapons. He had, what was it, DJ Moore? He had Christian McCaffrey to start the season. That defense was solid. I ain't gonna say solid. They was middle of the pack. He had ample chance. I think he started like 6 or 7 games before they tried Sam Darnold. Then they started is it PJ Walker or whatever, the black quarterback, number 11. He had his chance, and he ain't get it done there. I can see that working for him, and since he didn't make that work, that's why I can't see him going to LA, even with the injury histories with Stafford. Him getting that big of a chance, regardless of the tape he's putting down. The tape he's putting down now is for his next team, in my opinion.
Hey,
he gonna be.
I'm just saying,
he might be in Tampa after Tom Brady leave.
when you talk about that, the Rams don't have draft capital. They don't have a lot of draft capital, and the Mayfield being able to build a little bit of a chemistry right now with that coaching staff, and if he gives them the right price, I just think it's gonna be a competition. And the whole situation in Carolina with the Panthers, it's not gonna matter because he's gonna have 2 more games to. He's gonna have 2 more games to add, and maybe some preseason games. Those Tampa games are going to seem like years ago. If he has a good game of this upcoming week,
versus the Chargers, Justin
the
Herbert.
next 2
That's the
weeks,
name in it.
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He goes out against the Chargers and show out. Come on, man.
And then he
Think
finished
about
with
it.
Geno.
Think
At
about it.
Geno. Yeah. Okay. I will
He
give
has an opportunity to find a new home and to find the right market that fits his character. That's what I'm saying.
for the right price though.
For the right price, he'd have a chance to earn more money because it's LA. And
Outside.
he'd have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he'd have to win to earn that money.
Yeah.
But Baker Mayfield in LA, I think it's a good match when you talk about if you're attached to winning to that and some disciplined quarterback play. Hey, I'm just thinking outside the box a little bit. And that was just something I was thinking about when I was watching that game. Like, damn, if this dude I'm not a big Baker Mayfield fan, but if this dude can land here in LA,
I'm just
big opportunity for him. Hell
I'm
of a market. Okay. And if he go and he duel out with the Chargers this weekend, the AFC crosstown rival in the same market, if he go and have a hell of a game, I mean, he just stock goes up even more.
I'm looking at just the team just around the league. If I can make a case for him going any Colts need a quarterback, right?
Yep.
Uh
I think the Colts will draft their quarterback. A
um
lot of people think they got them taking the kid from Kentucky.
Cards good, Browns good, Ravens, yeah. It's not a lot of as I'm looking around the league, I mean, it's making more sense what you say, but I just can't see him just I think it's more of a Drew Brees, Jameis Winston's like, okay, you here, you can be here. You the backup until Stafford say, I can't do it no more, or his body won't let him do it no more.
Yeah, but I think Baker has an opportunity to outplay that too. I mean, that's just with good tape and good chemistry, because chemistry means something. And because think about it, Stafford was playing this season.
Yeah.
They didn't do particularly well with Stafford.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super Bowl hangover.
So, I mean, you're looking at them too. I don't get me wrong. That team, that was a juggernaut they put together last year. Okay. Sold the farm to win the Super Bowl. They got it done, but now no draft picks. I don't know what they look like in cap space. I think they're like the opposite of the Bears, the exact opposite of the Bears. When you come down, but the Bears got all of this. They got this, uh, all this money in the draft. I mean, all this money for cap space. Then they got these draft picks they getting back, and who knows what they're gonna do on draft day as far as getting more picks. It's just two different franchises and two different sides of the pendulum. It's just the highs are the highs and the lows are the low. They just coming off a Super Bowl, but they only way down. No way to rebuild, and I just think it shapes up better for Mayfield.
And now that you brought that up, now I'm thinking about the Rams. Remember, the Rams went all in with Jared Goff too. Remember they gave Ty Gurley that big money. They strengthened up their defense then. Remember that's when they traded, I believe, and they got Jalen Ramsey. And they got what's from the Bears? Was it Leonard Floyd?
Leonard Floyd, yeah.
Yeah, they so I'm like, how can you flip your roster that quick and do the same thing all over again? Because they had Odell last year, they had Von Miller, they was loaded last year.
Hey, Baker Mayfield in Los Angeles with the Rams, I think it could be a thing. I'm just looking at his marketability, his ability if he can continue to play good football. I think it's pretty much a no-brainer, considering the fact they can't really rebuild. And he's right. I mean, he's still right in his prime of his career.
He's in the
Stafford is, as far as I'm concerned, Stafford is the Detroit Lions quarterback. Okay,
You can't say that. He got a Super Bowl for the Rams.
one.
Hey,
1 year, one Super Bowl with the Rams. Years from now, we'll remember that. But we will remember Matthew Stafford as the Detroit Lions quarterback. That's just how I feel about it.
I mean,
Maybe it's because
he was
maybe
there
it's
for 3
because he's
years.
in the NFC and we've seen him so much playing against the Bears. But he's the best Detroit Lions quarterback ever.
Over Eric Kramer. Come on now, right? Rodney Pete. Come on. No, I'm messing with you.
I mean, look at the stats.
He
I'm
is.
pretty
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet he's the best that they ever had. They just didn't win anything. But I mean, just something that was on my mind that we probably spent too much time talking about. Don't get me wrong, but I'm gonna wrap up with this. I'm gonna let you go have your night. The NBA, we're gonna be eventually, getting there. What was your impressions of the NBA Christmas games? I know you were talking about Luca's 60-point performance that he just recently had, and it's kind of overshadowed the NBA Christmas games, like you said.
Yeah. Bron them playing. Okay, first of all, I cut the game on. I didn't recognize who was playing because Dallas had them alternate jerseys on. The Lakers had alternate jerseys. So I'm paying attention to that game and I'm watching it. The Lakers winning, and I just kept waiting for the ball to drop, and it did. And then the Lakers down. I think it was down like 14 points with maybe like 4 minutes to go. LeBron's still in the game. I'm like, this is a classic case of trying to catch Kareem right now. Like, there's no reason for him to be in this game right now. At 30, he about to be 38 on Friday. There's no reason for him to be in this game, but he was still in that game. I didn't catch none of the what's the first game was Knicks and Sixers. I didn't catch none of that. Jason Tatum went off 41 on Christmas Day. Beat Giannis. Giannis had a pretty bad game though. I think he was very off from the field. Couldn't get to the basket. They Boston walled him up. Saw the luster came off of the Grizzlies Warriors game. No Steph. Clay was out there. Warriors won that game because they wanted that game. That was the moment they was telling the Grizzlies like, "Hey, it's still ours for right now. We know y'all coming." It was kind of like Bulls Pistons back in the day. Like, we know y'all on the come, but not just yet. Even if we ain't got our best player. So, but shout out to Jai. He debuted his new sneaker, the Jai Signature one. Because we ain't ducking no smoke. I like that quote from Jai. But other than that, and I didn't even watch the last game at all. And then Luca's video game numbers, the 60, 20, and 10, that was great. I'm like, dude, that's what you do on 2K playing in rookie mode on 4-minute quarters, like not passing to nobody. So that was amazing. And to see that they pulled that game out, the Knicks should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, I think the Luca campaign is on in the NBA.
Oh, it's been on for the last 2 years, but Jokic got another MVP on his watch.
I think Luca's going to win a championship. We've been watching enough NBA now in our lifetime to know that he's going to win at least one.
Yeah.
One thing, we get back to that Christmas Day game. You mentioned he had the 60 points against the Knicks.
Yeah.
But one thing that stood out to me on the Christmas Day game between the Lakers and the Mavericks, felt like this was a classic LeBron chasing Kareem game because he left him out there so he can get his numbers. And he was really, really, really aggressive. You know what I'm saying? Very early in that game. And the Lakers was in it for the first 2 quarters. But you know what the breaking point was to me? And I kind of tuned that game out at this point.
It wasn't Westbrook. He ain't do nothing.
No, it was a situation in the game. And I get it. We selling LeBron in the record. We selling Luca in his future legacy or whatever. Uh, I don't know how you feel about when they overturn calls in the games. Like when referees make calls and they go back and they overturn the call. I do not like when the referee called a foul and they go back and review the foul and change the call. There's a call that I'm talking about. See if you can remember. Luca, loose ball, picks up the loose ball somehow, and he runs right into Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves, to the natural eye, naked eye, looks like he took a charge.
Mm-hmm.
So they called a charge initially. Then they go and review it. The charge turns into a block, and now Luca's at the line shooting too. I'm not with that. I'm not with that.
Yeah.
That's like calling balls and strikes in the NFL. I mean, in the Major League Baseball. If
Yeah.
you call it a strike, it's a strike. You can't bail Luca out because you want him to, he's the guy. I know you want to sell us Luca,
Yeah.
but don't sell him to me like that.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Like, I'm cool for the review on who touched the ball last, and it's going out of bounds, because that's big. That's change of possession. But going back and looking at it all, no, that wasn't a block. It was a charge, especially under the basket. But this play you talking about, it happened out in the open floor.
Yep.
If we just checking to see was the man outside of the restricted circle, I'm cool with that one. I'm good with that one. But the Luka call you talking about, like, no, that was simply to keep Luka in the game, because I think he had 5 fouls in that game.
Okay.
You just trying to keep him in. If you gonna do that from the jump, just recognize, oh, that's Luka. We got to give this to Austin Reeves. Just like Kobe ain't fouling out, Michael Jordan ain't fouling out, LeBron ain't fouling out. Just do it like that off the top.
I get it.
At least it looks fluid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I get it. I know you selling him to me. I know you selling Luca. Luca's good enough ball player. You don't have to sell him to me like that. I just think if he was in the 80s and 90s, it'd be much different. Same way I feel about with LeBron. These guys just get to the rim and, much better 3-point shooters out there because they play the game, they extend the floor. I respect these guys for that. But you don't have to say I don't like to see them go. The era of the human element still has to remain in the game. You make a call, if you're calling it a foul, one way or the other, block charge, live with the call.
Yeah.
Live with the call. Like I said, it's just like calling balls and strikes in baseball it's more plain because obviously you got the strike zone. But
I mean, how long they had that box up there that you see on the TV and that it'll miss and it'll be like strike? We'll be like, no, that was a ball.
Yeah. But that's the era. That's the human element.
Yeah.
Of era. Just that's what we have to. The referee is going to make mistakes, just like the player is going to turn the ball over.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to sell the game to me like that. That's just how I feel about it. It's been real, man. We're gonna be getting into this basketball coverage a little bit more because this college football season is about to wind down on us. We got the college football playoff for those you guys that still here with us, because we've been on. I think this is the longest we've been on since we started doing this thing. We beating our record by 10 minutes, I believe. So, let me see, when can we come back on? Well, Sunday. Join us Sunday, probably about 6.
First show of the new year.
Yeah, man. Sunday, New Year's Day. Happy New Year. Watch the Game podcast. WTG Podcast 1 on YouTube. I'm your man, L.A. Cheatham.
Benjamin Banneker. Y'all be cool. Happy New Year. And we'll catch y'all in 2023.